Hey friends, how are you? So it's Friday, June 7th. And hey, that movie Dark Phoenix by the X-Men series comes out today. I actually, if I'm feeling better, I'm gonna go check out that movie because I think there's some information. I was sleeping yesterday and I've been battling a little cold the last few days. And then I've been talking about this whole fourth dimensional 4D transit that we're going through. And so this dream I had yesterday was it was pretty eye-opening because it has a lot to do with this 4D thing that I'm on. I guess it's the next chapter in my video series. And I want to take as an example my troll, like to say, this person who's upset at me and angry that I assumes that I'm a dark person who is making up my identity and lying to everyone in my YouTube videos about being in the light. But here's my understanding, and this was in my dream yesterday. And literally, like, when I have dreams, I really do think that these are, like, for lack of words, it's our constituents, the ones who orchestrate how everything goes. I call it the divine council, I call it the divine, or I call it source. Everyone calls it something, you know. It could have been the Trinity, I don't know. But so in my dream state, I was sat down in a dark room with a light circle on the bottom. So it was just one big circle. I was sitting in the middle, and you couldn't see past that circle anywhere. I just remember them saying that my child, you are being used, and the most purest and impurest of all ways, of which no one has gone into these depths before, because some people don't understand the balance between darkness and light. And I think people misconstrued that darkness is evil. Darkness is not evil. Evil is evil. Evil assignments are evil, but dark assignments are usually sometimes for purging purposes. And I think dark is a word that we misuse all the time, because at night we need the dark to cool off from all the heat of the sun, right? We can't stay in the daylight the whole time, we will die. And we can't stay in the dark too long because we'll get cold and die. So to maintain balance, we have to keep afloat in the middle, and you have to realize that all of our emotions that we have that are not happy or not in the positive emotions, that's darkness. Or, you know, some of us who are single and we're like, hey, I wanna have me a good old time with somebody, let me text someone. It's darkness, but it's not evil, and it's not sinful. I think a lot of times we put the accountability on darkness, and darkness is kind of like saying, look, y'all, please stop accusing me of everything. I'm tired of being everyone's catalyst for why things are going wrong in the world. This video is probably gonna offset people because I'm not promoting dark art or dark assignments, but I know some people that are esoteric, and I know some people who do the old Ethiopian practice of Odu, voodoo, and they're beautiful people. And I think we have been so constructed to oppose anything that is not positive or good And the whole thing and the point of us being here is to integrate everything into oneness. So it doesn't mean like do bad things and feel good about it. It just means that how could you resist the conviction and the condemning and start putting some unconditional loving, and I think you can heal people. Like I have a friend who, and I appreciate him so much because I shared with him a lot of things about me and my spiritual journey, and I would have never thought that awakening would have brought on every possible problem that my whole family is going through. Alcohol addiction, drug use, and what do you call it? Sex abuse, instigating of stories to have people. I would have never thought that awakening into my spiritual journey meant I had to cleanse and fix my whole family's issues by taking it on into my own body, my own affliction. I've never asked for any of that. I was a very innocent child when I was younger, like what? All the way till about 17 years old, and I started understanding that, hey, my grandmother has gifts. I want those gifts too. And I kept going, opening more and trying to seek, what is it that my grandmother has? How does she do that? You know, how is she so powerful and so spiritual and contagious? And everyone wants to be like her. And my ego, which is also darkness, ego is, you know, because when you are, social competent, you know, or when you're, I forget the word, when you're open and receptive, it's sort of like you're opening the light, but then when you're closing it off for yourself, it's still darkness. So anyways, as I get older and older, I was saying, I want to be exactly like my grandmother. She's so powerful and spiritual. And then right at, I would say 33 years old, which was what, 4 years ago? 3 years ago, I didn't know I was going to be going through hell and back. And some posts that I have in my video library, I call it the underworld. And I think there's some characters like Anubis and Hades, Ares, what's her name? Diana, Adanda. There's all these different characters where they talk about the underworld and that they're the protectors of the underworld. Excuse me. I never really clearly understood what that meant. Just because they're protectors of it doesn't mean that they participate in those things. Or just because they are in that state of reality, it doesn't mean that they're evil, you know, doing evil. It's a lot of times it's about creating resistance and building a bridge, if there is a bridge, when one is ready to transmute into the light, then there's a path and there is a assignment. So I try to now understand I have to stop convicting, like let's say for example, we always accuse music artists and entertainers of Illuminati. We keep saying that, oh, they worship the devil and they're Satanists. And when you speak that way, it's still darkness, because you're condemning people of something of their own. You don't even know what their understanding is of it, or if they even do understand. But sometimes if they're held at their will and they're trying to not struggle and suffer, and unwillingly they've chosen that path, you still have to love them. And until they understand that they are loved regardless, they won't change. And that's the whole point that I'm trying to understand in my relationships with people. All of my relationships thus far with people and being close to them have all decapacitated. I'm not close to not one person nowadays. And it's not because, oh, what I do or what have I done to these people. It's really about what they've convicted me of doing to myself. And we do that to other people too. We convict them of, oh, you're always drunk, I can't be around you. But quite the opposite can change someone's life. And I think it really takes having to have gone into both sides and in the middle. No one can really understand what it is to truly love someone from darkness into the light. And I think a lot of us, we try and then we give up, and then we go back at it, and then we try and we give up. My mom is a great example of this because she refuses to give up on my stepfather. There's many times where he has had some pretty bad situations, but she never divorced him. She never said, I'm through with you. Because, if she had given up on him, he would have given up on himself. And that takes a lot of love, faith, and, believing in yourself, believing in the person. And even if, it's a continuous journey or a karmic doing, or what do they call it? A karmic flame, or like a past life regression where you come back to consciousness each time. I think maybe that's just what they have forever and ever and ever. But at least it exemplifies the pureness of my mom's heart. And that's all I could really do, is just be a spitting image of what I learn and understand. But this dream, it really just brought me to an understanding that everything was planned. There are no mistakes. There are times where, I'm sitting in someone's living room and I'm just like, oh, I know I shouldn't be in this situation. But then that person opens their mouth and say, if you didn't respond to, my text message and we haven't had this conversation, I would have killed myself. And it's just like, whoa, I wasn't prepared for you saying that. You don't kill yourself. That's not, you know what I mean? And I'm just being very nitty gritty. There are a lot of times where I was in the right place at the perfect time. Because that's what my soul and the constituents, that's what they know I can handle and what they put me under. Now, it's different if somebody knows, I don't know what's a good example, but I think if we use the topic of, let's say, addiction, for whichever it is, there's not one, there's many. But some people are blindly addicted. Could be food, shopping, drinking, making money, who knows, whatever it is that you can imagine. And until there's awareness in that state of being, that person is actually doing a service. It's weird to say that, but we do live in a world of opposition. So who knows what assignment someone could have been diffusing by a shopping addiction. Maybe they could have bought something off the shelf. I don't know. There's so many OCD stories you can think of, but in so many different ways, people are being used to purge, cleanse, and transmute. And by someone even being a part of a specific bloodline, touching an item and putting resin on the item, energizing that item, and then someone else behind that person buys that item, now that's in their home. We never look at the divine growth of situations. We always kind of just look at the bad and we convict it. And I think that's why we haven't had an ascension, we haven't had a rapture, we haven't had the tribulation, we haven't had apocalyptic, fireballs on the earth and all this stuff, because we're still trapped in we're in a misunderstanding right now. I think everything's waiting for people to understand. And that's when the big show will happen, is once people start understanding that everything is center, everything is oneness, everything is in its own perfect, Like, I had a friend call me yesterday, a friend, and all he did was talk about him being angry at a cashier who was a young person. I was just trying to tell him, like, can you, like, I asked you how you were doing. I didn't want a whole hour of you being revolting about some situation that had nothing to do with me at all. But he wasted basically our whole, I didn't even get like 4 words out of my mouth. But I was trying to get him to understand that you missed the whole point. The whole point was to forgive or to apologize to yourself that you had to witness someone being in the adolescence of their spiritual journey. They didn't know that they were being an a-hole. They didn't know they were being rude, or they didn't know that they were being immature. Until someone's aware of it, then the growth process can happen. And that's why you need darkness. It's plain and simple. We need darkness to make light better, and light transmutes dark. It's an ever-going situation. It's kind of like the freeway system, because I'm driving on the freeway. Here's a great metaphor. Every freeway leads to another connection, and the only way to stop the flow of the freeways is to put an ocean in between continents. You know, put some pureness to break everything up. You know, but until that happens globally, we have to continue these connections. We still have to continue to tap into these alternate realities and alternate entities. We have to still go through hell and back. We still have to go through stress and drama, but we still have to rise above and feel inspired and motivated. Excuse me. So I was very appreciative of this dream. Maybe it was just an astral projection that I went somewhere and I was sat down into the principal's office, because I think the ego part of me is I try to make friends with people that are imperfect, because it's not like I can fix them, but I know that sometimes around people that are hurting, I connect with them more and I get along with them more, because I've been in that position so many times. So when I try to connect with people that are much more in a higher vibration, I clash with them all the time. I don't know. And then sometimes I feel like I have such an unconditional energy. I can say absolutely nothing to nobody and they'll still feel loved. You know, and I think everyone who's approached me, whether they like me or not, in the very beginning, they felt something. They knew something. And a lot of times people misunderstand that I'm a human being. I'm a human. You know, I'm a regular old human, but the essence around me, the resin, the entities that be around me, they have chosen to harvest themselves around me, and it's all light. I mean, there's so many. How many videos? This is kind of being weird. If you go back into the last 3 videos, how many orbs have you seen float across this car? So there's some evidence that they have chosen to, you know, do whatever they can as much as they, and I'm sorry, they've been working overtime on me, but they've been pulling every, and I'm a perfect example. Like I was actually, I don't know, it's weird to say this, but if you can imagine the most imperfect person, the most bent out of shape person, the most angry of all angries, conniving of all connivings, most promiscuous of them all, and this dweller of conviction and convicting other people. Imagine like something so benevolent and so unconditional entering this body over and over and over in order to like not fix, but to really like convert this body into, because they chose me for that. And I was kind of unknowing of it. I was unwilling to, you know, surrender to that. And I recently, I think up until I started uploading my videos about almost a year and a half ago, that's really when I started changing myself and saying, I'm gonna let this presence do what it needs to do, because it feels good, and I'm learning it's taking care of my body. You know, I should have been dead. You know, I would have caused so much death on myself from my own actions. And the fact that these presences have done so much on me throughout time, it's really showing them that their gifts are real. And so we never really think about that perspective, that this isn't about us to them, this is them to us and going back to them. We're sharing.